Have you ever looked out at your garden and just felt kind of overwhelmed? You know, it's a jumble of plants, the paths don't really make sense, and you've got this feeling that it could be so much better. Well, if you're tired of fighting that chaos, you are in exactly the right place. We're going to walk through a super simple, structured way to design a garden that's not just beautiful, but crazy productive and honestly, just a joy to be in.
So, here's our game plan. We'll start with the why, like why a simple design is such a game changer. Then we'll hit the one golden rule for a healthy garden. After that, we get practical, the planning blueprint, how to take that plan from paper to your actual plot, and we'll wrap it all up with the awesome long-term payoff. Let's do this.
Okay, let's dive right in. You know, the real difference between a garden that thrives and one that just struggles, it almost always comes down to one thing: having a plan. And I'm not talking about being a professional landscape architect. It's just about making a few smart choices before you even pick up a shovel. This quote really hits the nail on the head. It's all about a big shift in how we think. For ages, gardens were designed for us, the cultivator. You know, long single rows that are easy to till. But this new way of thinking asks us to design for the plant's needs first, the cultivar. And when you prioritize what the plants need to thrive, wow, you unlock a whole new level of health and productivity. And you can see the difference right here. It's night and day, really. On the left, you've got the classic chaos garden, soil that gets walked on and turns hard as a rock, which just invites weeds and wastes so much of your effort. But on the right, the system garden, that's where you get that healthy, fluffy soil, which means way less work, less weeding, and a much, much bigger harvest. So this all leads us to the single most important rule in this entire system. It's almost ridiculously simple, but it is the absolute key to everything. You have to separate where you walk from where your plants grow. That's it. And the reason that rule is so critical is because of this invisible enemy right here, soil compaction. See, every single time you step into a garden bed, your weight is like a vice, just squeezing the life out of the soil. It crushes all those tiny pockets of air that roots and water need to move around. It's basically suffocating the soil, and roots just can't grow in that. So this is the mantra. Say it with me. Your feet belong in the paths. Your plants belong in the beds. Once you build those beds, you never, ever, ever step in them again. Your feet stay on the paths permanently. This one habit, this one simple change protects your soil and lets it stay light and airy, creating the perfect home for strong, healthy roots year after year. All right, so how do we actually do this? How do we create that perfect layout? This is where we get our hands dirty, well, figuratively, for now. And the best part, you don't need any fancy software or expensive gear. The whole process starts with some really simple, everyday tools.
And here's your whole toolkit. I love how low-tech this is. A sheet of graph paper and a pencil, that's your design studio. Then you just need a measuring tape to get your dimensions right and some simple stakes and twine, or even just a little sand to lay it all out in the yard. See, your perfect garden plan starts right here, on a piece of paper.
Now, the absolute genius of using graph paper is that it lets you build a perfect scale model. Just decide that 1 square equals 1 foot, and you can map out your entire space with total precision. This is where you can plan out those nice wide beds. 4 feet wide is usually perfect because you can reach the middle from either side without ever stepping in. And just as important, you can plan your paths. Make sure they're wide enough for you in a wheelbarrow. A path that's about 18 inches to 2 feet wide might seem like a lot, but you'll be so glad you have the room later. Okay, you've got your blueprint, your masterpiece on paper. Now for the really fun part, bringing that vision to life. This next bit is all about the simple, step-by-step process of taking that drawing and making it real, right in your own backyard. And the process is super straightforward. First, just measure your total garden area. Second, sketch it out on your graph paper, making sure you mark any permanent stuff, like a shed or a big tree. Then, you take that drawing outside. Using your measuring tape, you're going to put a stake in the ground at every single corner of every bed you drew. This is the moment your paper plan becomes real. And finally, just connect those stakes with twine or pour line of sand. And boom, just like that, the perfect plan from your paper is now perfectly outlined on the ground. Now, I know all this measuring and sketching might seem like a bit of work up front, but trust me, the reason we do it is for the long-term payoff. A little bit of planning now creates a garden that is so much less work and way more fun for years and years to come. And the benefits are, well, they're huge because you're not compacting the soil, drainage is better, and roots can just explode with growth.
When you plant closely in the beds, the plants themselves shade out most of the weeds for you. You'll save time, water, and fertilizer because you're putting them right where they need to go, not wasting them on paths. Harvesting is a breeze. And it's also a fantastic system for gardeners who might have trouble bending over, since it brings the garden up to you. So, in the end, it's pretty clear that a garden layout is so much more than just a few lines in the dirt. It is the literal foundation for everything that grows. You're building an entire system for success. So the real question isn't if you should plan, it's what amazing, beautiful, productive thing will you build.